Pass it over to our analysts.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. TSM able to tie it up 1-1 here against Dignitas. Let's talk about this Jace pick, though, because I, for one, do not like it. What are your thoughts?
Well, it's definitely didn't work this game.
No, but I'm saying just in general, I don't like this pick very much.
I thought it was super interesting, right? Because Jace is one of the most played champions by all the big top laners in solo queue. And also, it was banned last game, so you thought it was going to be the super high priority pick. And also, TSM has been in this mindset before. If you think about Worlds, they were prioritized picking Jace in almost every game, and then they'd lose late game to Poppy. So that was, I think, the biggest standout to me in this draft. Is you look at the Team Dignitas team, they were almost hoping and expecting someday to crush on Jace, because that's the only way they realistically win, assuming you have a normal-looking game. The Poppy is such a better front line. The Thresh is much better pick potential than you can get on some other teams. So when Hanser was keeping even with Someday in CS this whole game, and then you saw Team Dignitas didn't have any answers. That's because the Jace didn't snowball.
It feels like such a narrow strategy when you're coming in with the Jace here, blind pick, saying we have to win by so much in order to get out in front of this Poppy, who, as you mentioned, at Worlds we saw once the Ninja Tabbies and the Sunfire comes through, it pretty much spells the end of the split push game for Jace unless he's majorly ahead.
Pretty much. And you and I talked off camera about fallback patterns.
Right.
And a lot of times you see a champion that is kind of so overbearing that they don't care about not having a solid fallback pattern if you fall behind. That's Jace. But honestly, it didn't even look like it got close. This is one of the worst Jace games I've seen from a performance perspective.
Yeah. Which
is crazy to say when you say was Someday on that champion who we've been just praising ever since he came here.
Right, and all this while Fiora was available. So clearly Dignitas does look at Jace as it was banned in the previous game, and this one here picked over Fiora. They value it very high. Didn't work out for them. We'll see if they decide to go back to it or maybe switch up the strategy a bit. I mean, the other thing I can't help but notice is just the lack of engage. So going for, again, the team composition, we've said it many times before, poke compositions, if they don't get ahead, they have a lack of options in the late game. So even with that double mountain, just not coming together for Dignitas. I do want to take a look at a fight here that goes in favor of TSM, 29.5 minutes into the game here. Good recovery by them in light of the small lead and advantages that Dignitas did have.
And notice the start was just the Thresh hook, and then everyone very definitely moves out of the shockwave, but once Poppy arrives in this fight, Jace isn't going to be able to teleport into a team fight like that. Everyone just has to bail. Biofrost actually hooks over onto a big Raptor in order to catch Someday, and TSM was just able to kind of brute force their way down, and you can see the rest of the game just kind of swinging in that fashion.
Right.
They never really had to fight. Look at how low the damage is. Less than 10,000 damage.
The 80 carries.
Win. How many times have we seen that?
Yeah, that's very rare. And then, of course, the Ashe 8.3k damage to 20.5k of the Varus, and that's another one of the situations.
Poke.
Even with, it's poke, but then even with, the Black Cleavers coming through across Jace and Kha'Zix, as well as, some armor pen late game for the Ashe coming in, it didn't seem to matter because they kind of picked themselves into a situation where the Poppy could stack the armor and just become this unkillable tank. TSM there on your screens refueling for Game 3.
Although they get bananas, spend scaring with the apple. Lowering calories, less potassium. Different choices.
Dr. Jat. No, but so here's my question. It will be a confidence booster, at least for TSM, to be coming off the victory here, but that still doesn't negate, kind of in a sense, how dominant the first game was out of Dignitas. And so that's got to be in the back of your mind, this idea that, if we don't work our way through Champion Select carefully again here in Game 3, the Dignitas could strike back and take this series 2-1.
Yeah, and you really wonder how Team Dignitas is going to strike back, because even though the champions have differed a little bit by TSM, their general style has been very standard. Bjergsen on Cassiopeia, they want tanks, they want team fights, and they want a little bit of picking. Whereas Team Dignitas is really about Someday snowballing on a pick, not having that team fight fallback pattern. So the question for me is, do they put Someday on a tank? Because they've won with him on a tank, and he could win lane as a tank against Hanser most likely. So if they do that, do they just try and beat TSM with their own game? Or do they go back to what won in Game 1 and really commit to it with like a solid late game win condition that's not just Jace snowballing and winning the game in 20 minutes?
I mean, they've got options. That's a good thing, at least. Sven Skaren going to be picking up player of the game this time around, really for the attention that he gave to the top lane. It was him and Hanser, and this was a close one, and between the two for player of the game here. Both understood needing to control the Jace and did it very well.
Yeah, exactly. Especially early on in the laning phase. Poppy doesn't win that lane by itself, so Svenskeren definitely had some good presence in that one. And once they were able to get Poppy in that position, as we mentioned, it was, as long as TSM doesn't mess up horribly, they were going to win that game.
Yeah, you know, and he was up against Chaser on Kha'Zix there, and of course I know Zyrene had tweeted out in the middle of this game some statistics around the Kha'Zix having a 72% win rate globally and competitive over 64 games. So a large sample size there, a very effective champion. TSM able to shut it this time around. We'll see if they can do it one more time to get the series victory. We'll be back in just a bit for Game 3 of TSM versus Dignitas.
1, 2, 3, ABC. 1, 2, 1, you and me.
Tackle into the wall, pretty beautiful here. Now Someday just gonna run out of HP. One more hit will do it. Tries to get the trade, can't quite do enough damage.
Oh, but Someday has no summoners now. He's gonna get kicked in.
There's the quick kick, clean as you like it. There's the kill picked up also. Someday overstepping his bounds, and a tackle comes in onto Lod, petrifying
The flame for Bio!
Someday's gonna find even more. They've got everything they need. The kill's still coming through to TSM's favor. Goes to the play, kicks in Someday. That's all the damage they need. Sven's gonna lose his life though. Keen picks up one. It's a trade, of course. 1-1, TSM ties it up.